All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our May Lunch and Learn. Our topic today is addiction beyond the stereotypes. We're honored to have Caroline Barrett here from soberme.ca as our featured speaker. And then today, she's going to walk us through some very enlightening and could be, I think, some intense discussion. Caroline is a certified recovery coach, and she's passionate about mental health for both professionals and those in their personal lives who are navigating addiction and recovery. And in today's session, she's going to talk about the complexities of addiction, its impact on individuals, families, and communities, pathways to recovery, and how we can reduce stigma and foster empathy. So, Caroline, I am going to let you take it from here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. So I'll start off with a little bit about my history of how I got to where I'm at today. So basically, my brother and I, it was just my brother and I, I'm the oldest out of the two of us. We grew up in a house where my parents were from Montreal. So we moved to Ontario when I was born. And we lived in a house where our parents didn't really drink. They didn't. They did periodically, like my dad. I did see my dad get drunk a few times, but that was the extent of it. It wasn't around. It wasn't an everyday thing. When we were younger, my brother would ask my dad. He was probably about 5. He would ask my dad, "Can I take a sip of your beer?" And my dad would say, "Yeah," because he wouldn't think anything of it at that point in time, and he would let him do it. And so as time went on, still, like, I look back at things now and I think, oh, those are probably like addictive tendencies that I had back then. And so as time went on, both of us, we didn't really drink much. That's when I started to drink. It was more in high school. But there wasn't anything like kind of in between. It actually started for both of us more later on in life. And so in high school, I did drink with my friends. And I just, it made me feel so good. It made me feel outside of my body. It made me feel like I could be that person that could flirt with guys. I could talk to anybody. I could be funny, and I could be a different person than myself. And it really made me kind of like open my eyes to who I could be. So we would drink on the weekends. We were 15. We were trying it out. We would drink on the weekends, and I wouldn't drink in between, but I would be looking very forward to those weekend drinks on a regular basis. And so when the weekend would come, I was always the littlest one. I was 103 pounds all through high school. And so I was the one that got the drunkest out of everybody all the time. So I was the funny one. And and it was, well, what did I do last night? And, just a fun topic. The next day was talking about, what I did. And of course we were all getting drunk, but I was the drunkest out of everyone. So we did this for years in high school, where I would get really drunk on the weekends. And then as time went on, I was a kid working at Shoppers Drug Mart, and then I got a job in a bar. And I was about 19 when I got the job in the bar, probably 20. And I started working in the bar. And one of the guys who owned the bar next door would come over and say to me, "Well, I'm going to teach you how to drink. Like, I'm going to teach you how to get, like, doing this on a regular basis." And he did. He didn't teach me how to drink because I was still a lightweight even when I quit. So I'd have 1 or 2 drinks and I would still buzz quite a bit. But I would go with him and get drunk every single night of the week. So this became more of a habit. So my earlier years, I didn't really drink much other than on the weekends. And then but I did like the feeling of it. And then eventually, my early 20s, I ended up drinking every single night. That's what we did in the bar, though. That's what everyone, like, it was your day off and you went into the bar to go and see where your friends were and hang out, or like just everyone drank. And then you met other people in other bars that did drink as well. So everyone was partying together. Everyone was doing the same thing. There were some that weren't, which was great for them, but I felt into this completely, and I loved it. I loved how it made me feel, made me social, I was meeting more people, I was getting to know more people, but I was getting to know more people that were all drinking, that were all in the same kind of, like, in the same industry as me. So I was working there. I worked there for 3 years, and I spent a lot of time, like, I remember one time my mom came in and I had asked her to come bring me something. I was done work and I was sitting at the bar having a drink and playing one of those games. And my mom walked in and she said to me, she goes, "Oh, you've changed." She was so disappointed in me. And I thought, well, this is what people do. Like, this is, everyone is drinking. So it's you that's wrong. It's not me. So I end up continuing on with that, but I saved up enough to go to school in Vancouver. So this was in Burlington. I grew up in Burlington all my life. And then I ended up going to Vancouver for college. I took a tourism management course. It was essentially a business management, which they incorporated tourism into it. And I moved out there all by myself. First time on my own, first time doing anything, moving out of the house, everything. And so I literally, when I say that I feel like I grew up in Vancouver, I really legitimately feel like I grew up in Vancouver because I had to do this, figure life out all on my own. And so, and I thought, would think to myself before, just like maybe if I move out and not work in a restaurant, then I'm not going to be like move away from all this and stay away from the alcohol, then I'm going to stop drinking. But little did I know is that drinking continued on with me. So when I moved out to Vancouver, I remember I called them my stepmom and my stepdad. They're my parents' friends who I moved in with for a couple of weeks while I was getting a place in Vancouver. And they drank. They drank a significant amount. So I drank with them. I felt really good that they drank. At least I had that in common with them. And so, but they drank more than I did. So I kind of got a huge eye opener with having like the parents that do drink and get drunk and leave all the wine around. I finally got a job in a restaurant while going to school, and I would work late nights and I would come home. I parked my car in the maid's driveway. And so I would take the back door to get into the house. And quite often the music was still blaring and there was wine everywhere. And so I would have to go put everything away and whatever else. And like I was the parent while I was living with them. So I lived in Vancouver and I continued to drink if not worse than what I was doing when I was doing in Ontario. In that time, my brother had started drinking too. He had actually lived in Whistler before me, and he was working in a restaurant, and he ended up becoming quite a severe alcoholic. I was a functioning alcoholic, and he was more not. So he ended up moving back to Ontario, and I was in Vancouver going to school, and I was at that point where I was worried because I was drinking so much. It was 4 Smirnoff Ice, so 4 coolers in an evening for someone my size, or just anyone in general. That's a lot of, because there's a lot of alcohol in those coolers. So I drank a great deal of alcohol in that time. And I would like get up in the morning and I would scrub, like I would jump in the shower and I would scrub the alcohol off me because I didn't want people to smell the alcohol on me in the next morning. And I was worried. I was worried that people in school would think like I had a problem. And I ended up finding a place in Vancouver. I had a roommate, and actually one of her friends made a comment and said, because I always had Smirnoff Ice in the fridge and I always made sure I had alcohol, always made sure. And if it wasn't in the fridge, it was in the car. So he had made a comment to her and said, I think your roommate has a problem. And I was young. I didn't quite see it yet, but one time I had gone and finished school and I wanted to go to the mall. And but I had to go to the liquor store first. Like for me, it was like I had to have a glass of wine beforehand. And so not even a wine, it was a Smirnoff Ice. So I went to the liquor store before going to the mall, and I thought to myself, why do I have to do this? Like, what? This isn't normal. And so I went and got it, had my Smirnoff Ice, and I walked over to the mall because the mall was really close to me. Because Vancouver, if anyone knows Vancouver, it's quite small. So I walked over to the mall, I did my thing, and that was kind of my eye opener there. But I progressively got worse. Like it progressively worked against everything I wanted to do. In that time, I was going to school, I was working full time. That was my friend. That's what I could rely on. That was always there. I had made friends, but I noticed that they didn't really drink as much as I did in the bars here. Like here, I noticed that it was more of like, let's go out and drink and like, let's go. And like, that was the highlight of our nights. Whereas in Vancouver, more people were in school. I guess it was just what had happened. So they weren't really up to going to the bar every night after we were done work. And so I just did this on my own. And many years I continued, same routine every single night. Didn't matter if I was sick, sad, mad, happy, I was still drinking. It didn't matter how hungover I was. So then I moved back to Ontario, and then I decided I still was working in the bar, and it got worse there too. And then I moved to Toronto, and there I actually got a job in a restaurant that I knew that I couldn't drink while I was working because I wanted to control it a little bit. Still didn't change much. I still managed to still go out drinking with everybody and partying. And in that time, my brother was progressively getting worse as well. And then I had moved back to Vancouver. I was a little bit of a yo-yo back and forth. I always I love Vancouver. So I tried to make it work out there. And then I end up coming back to Ontario. So I was there during the Olympics. And during the Olympics, I worked full time and I was visiting. Had a lot of friends in Vancouver. I was going out full time with them as well because it was fun. It was like there's a lot going on. Anyways, and then I ended up coming back to Ontario, and that was kind of like when I was in my early 30s. I decided, I was like, one day I'm never going to drink again. I knew this in my mind. One day I'm never going to drink again. And I had told my cousin this, and she said, okay. And slowly I started looking at people and like celebrities, people that were successful and people that were doing really well and that weren't drinking, and how they were living their life without alcohol. And so it was starting to kind of open my eyes. And, but I was still drinking as much as I possibly could in that time. And I wasn't doing anything to help myself in any way, shape, or form until my brother had he had to get his fourth open heart surgery. So he had been born with a hole in his heart, and he was drinking to an excessive amount. So it was very, this was a really stressful last open heart surgery that he was getting done. And so he ended up he had the surgery. It was about 9 hours. It was supposed to be only 5 hours. It was a 9-hour surgery. And because of his drinking, they had to have a lot more people keeping an eye on him and whatever else. The doctor thought we were going to lose him. So he said, you better get here and just make sure, like, just to say your goodbyes. That's pretty much what he was implying. And we got there and he pulled through. He was there for 17 days, but he ended up going to AA afterwards. And that's where I was his support, because anything I do, he follows behind. So he needed me. My mom always said, like, maybe if you start to do something, then he'll start to kind of like, he'll follow through with you. So he did. He started going to AA and I started going to AA with him, and I was still drinking at that time. So he started in February, right after his surgery, because that was in January. And after his surgery, he started going, and I started going with him, and I was going in hungover. And then as time went on, I started getting more and more frustrated with myself because I was still drinking and I wanted to quit drinking. Now, in this time, we went through a great deal with my brother's drinking, we had a lot of issues with him because of his hole in his heart, because he was always at the doctor's. It was a continuous battle with him because he would drink throughout the day. He would get up in the morning and would drink, whereas I would start at 5 or 4, or I was a functional alcoholic where he wasn't working. He wasn't doing anything. So it was very stressful. There was always police. It's funny because the neighbors would always come up to my parents and be like, you have the nicest house in the street. My dad was an executive in advertising. He was the head of advertising for Hyundai of Canada for 25 years. My mom worked for the school board. And then all of a sudden, like, this is what's going on behind closed doors. So for many years, we struggled with the police and with the hospitals going in and out, my brother having seizures and stuff because he would try to quit drinking and he would have a seizure. We'd bring him to the hospital. And so anyways, I was going into AA with him. And one day he had said to me, we were listening to somebody talk, and it was a speaker talking about how when they were drinking, they were blacking out. And I had just been complaining about how the fact that I started to black out every single night in regards to my drinking. And sure enough, he says to me, he goes, that's you. He goes, you're an alcoholic. And I was so embarrassed. And the fact that he was worse than I was, and he's telling me that I'm bad. So anyways, that was an eye opener for me. So that was in August of 2016 that he said that to me. And I knew that I wanted to do a 3-month cleanse. And I was supposed to quit September 1st, but by September 11th, that was my date. I was so mad at myself that I hadn't quit drinking, that I decided, like, that's it, I'm done. He had already been sober for 6 months. So if he could do this, so could I. So I ended up, I got sober, like I'd stopped drinking. He went to different rehabs. So our journeys are very different. He went to 5 different rehabs, whereas I didn't do the rehab facility at all. It was a lot of willpower, a lot of determination, and just pushing through. So I did, for myself, I did cry myself to sleep for 3 weeks when I quit drinking, because I felt like I lost a friend. I felt like I lost that companion. Moving to Vancouver, that was always there for me. You know, like there was always something. It was always around me. And so, so I decided that was it, and I quit. But I woke up that morning after going out the night before with one of my girlfriends, and I was like, well, I like the next day I said to myself, well, I could totally have a drink today, but I didn't want to disappoint myself. So I didn't. I quit. And then I started with Krav Maga, and I did everything I possibly could to try and get myself on a healthier route path. You know, like it was just, my brother was doing this, I could do this. In the meantime, I had my best friend, Eddie, I always stress, like, doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, you can become an addict. Like he was very well educated, very fit, very healthy. He worked out all the time, but he ended up becoming an opioid addict, and drinking. And then he met a girl, and then she drank a great deal. So the two of them drank a lot. He died in 2019 of a fentanyl overdose. So I had been sober for about 3-4 years, and he had been asking me to go to meetings with him. I was going to meetings with him. I was a support for him as well. And unfortunately, on April 25th, his sister-in-law had called me and said, have you heard from him at all? And I said, no, I haven't. I'm mad at him. I said, I've blocked him. I don't want him in my life right now. And she said, okay, because we haven't heard from him, so we're going to go to the house and go check up on him. And I said, okay. So I had a gut feeling. I knew something wasn't right. So I grabbed my dog. I was at my mom and dad's. I had a little Pomeranian, Jake, and I grabbed Jake. I put him in his car seat. We went to Eddie's house. Sure enough, there was paramedics everywhere. Actually, the paramedic was following behind me on New Street in Burlington. And I got there and I asked the one paramedic, I said, is he dead? And he said, well, are you family? And I was like, well, no, but he's like my husband. And but then his sister-in-law walked through and she said, he's dead. So it was quite obviously a traumatic event for me, because to me, he was my right side. I relied on him for everything. And unfortunately, he passed away. He was 44 years old, right in that. So it's generally, they say 24 to 44, the males that are 24 to 44 are more susceptible to passing away from fentanyl. And he was right in that last little bit. So I actually had to go. He was dead in the house, and I asked to go see him because I had to go and register in my brain that he had passed away. I did. And you know, it's crazy because the next, I could have had a drink in that time because I was so stressed out, but I didn't want to, because his brother had asked me. He said, "How come you didn't drink again?" And I said, "Because I don't want to. Because I don't want to go back to that. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have, I want to live a healthier life. I can't go back to that." So I didn't. And, that taught me a great deal about, I learned a lot about addiction with myself and with them, but also with just in general, how people live, right? It's amazing how sometimes behind the perfect white picket fence isn't always perfect. So so that took a great deal of therapy for me to help with that. And now since then, I've started grief support meetings. So the grief support meetings is for those that have lost somebody due to substance abuse and addiction, because with dealing with substance abuse and addiction, there's always the years before that. It's like the years that we prepared ourselves that Eddie could pass away mentally. And then all of a sudden it's like that day came out of nowhere. That day's here. Like now what do I do? Now how do I cope? And so I didn't have anybody. I had one lady I'd reached out to all over, and I wanted specific therapy or counseling for addiction. And the one lady said to me, well, we can help his brother, because I'd mentioned that his brother wanted to come with me to therapy. And she said, well, we can help his brother, but we can't help you. So, which was kind of shocking. And so I said, okay, well, and then eventually I told another one, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own group. Someone who has lived experience and who has gone through this, and understands. And so the one lady said, well, good luck with that. And I said, thank you. But she was saying it sarcastically to me. So so I started that, and I started the group therapy. And it's just somebody that understands and can go through, that process with you, as opposed to someone trying to counsel you to tell you kind of what to feel and who to, what to think and stuff. So it's just there for everyone. And so in that whole time, I still have not touched a drop of alcohol. I'm almost 9 years sober. My brother's 10 years sober, almost 10 years sober. So for somebody who we were actually sitting down and talking about what we're going to put in his obituary, now owns 2 companies, got married, had another boy. He's got a son, a 15-year-old, but he just had Austin. They had Austin in September. His life is like, they just got back from a cruise for 2 weeks. Like, he's doing so amazing. He's a story of like just pushing through and making things happen for yourself, and that it can work. And he was at rock bottom. I could tell you so many stories of where we thought that was it for him. And yes, and now it's now I help people, families, and others that are suffering with addiction. And I just want them to realize like just how great sobriety is, how great it is. And I was talking to one last night. She had a relapse, and she's very high up in Toronto. She's got an executive position in Toronto. And she called me and I said, you're human. It's okay to have a relapse as long as you don't go back to it. And she said, I just wish I could push through this. And I said, oh, you're going to fight this for the rest of your life. Like, this is not, some people say that they quit and they're fine. They never have a feeling of a craving again. I still get them. So in that time that Eddie had passed away, my dog died shortly after that. Within that year and a half, my dog Jake died. And then my boyfriend and I split up. So after that, I almost had a quick craving of it. And I was like, oh, and I thought, no, that's going to make things worse. And now I feel so good. I feel so good. I feel healed. I feel like I've done the work and I'm on a good path now. So this is why I do what I do. And I want to help others and bring awareness to it. So that's it. Does anyone have any questions at all?
So, tell me about your group sessions. How does that work? How do you, and so first tell me about the group sessions you run, and then how do you help someone one-on-one?
So group sessions is basically like people coming in and just talking, sharing it with a person, sharing the before, the after, the stresses, like how they're feeling now, and just having that understanding of someone else, knowing exactly. I mean, it's not exactly, but a very similar situation of what they went through. So it's just basically everyone just talking, taking their turns and talking about what they want or what they need to get off their chest. And then just other people kind of chiming in and kind of helping how they dealt with certain things. Like for me, for instance, like walking on the beach every day. I do the 5 kilometers on the beach every morning, and sometimes in the afternoon or in the evening, sorry. So it's like, that's my downtime. That's how I deal with things, as opposed to going and grabbing a drink now. Or dealing with like a death, like I will go do something like that, more of a healthier thing for me. So.
And is this programs, like, do you meet every Monday at the same place at the same time, or
Yeah, every Thursday at 7 p.m. It's at the Capillary Wave Community for Men. So, but anyone can come. They have actually just opened up for women as well. So it's basically, it's just like they call it like it's a room where they all just go and they have meetings. So the majority of it is for men on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. And then after that, then on the Thursdays, it's for everyone. I do the grief support. So 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. every Thursday.
Do people sign up or just walk in?
Just walk in. Yeah. Just walk in. Yeah.
And what kind of resources do you offer, or counseling do you offer one-on-one for your clients?
For the recovery coaching? Well, I mean, like I stress, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I have lived experience. Yeah. So basically what it is just kind of like last night, that lady called me and she was stressed out because she had slipped up and she was upset and disappointed. And I just listened. And she called me at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night. And she just said to me, I'm just so stressed out over this. And I said, okay, just call me. That's fine. Call me and we'll talk about this. And really, like, I just asked her questions about how she feels and like kind of like what she feels she's going to do to make herself overcome this, and like what triggers, what cravings she was feeling, what goals does she want to review and go over again to try and make that happen. So basically, like, that's the gist of it. We go over, and I'm very big on gratitude. Definitely, like, just writing your affirmations, writing what you're grateful and thankful for every night, every morning when you wake up. So we do go over a lot of that stuff as well. Some people aren't interested, but we still talk about it.
I also have some personal experience with alcoholism and addiction in my family is very prevalent. I can't really think of any male member of my mother's family who doesn't really have what I would call an alcohol, problem,
Yeah.
and some function at a higher level than others. I
Mhm.
believe, I'm not trained or anything, but I believe it's hereditary.
Yeah.
And I fear for my children that
Mhm.
they will get that taste of it and
Mhm.
it'll feel good and taste good. And yeah, that they could become, addicted.
Yeah.
Um, my oldest son is 18 and we we basically said, if you don't have any alcohol before you're 18, we'll give you $1,000. If you don't have any alcohol before you're 21, we'll give you a car. So
Yeah.
he's had no alcohol and he's got his car.
Okay.
um,
Mhm.
and he doesn't drink. And my husband was worried when he went to college how it would seem to other friends. Is he
Yeah.
getting like the stick in the mud, So like, because there's also seems to be a stigma around not drinking. I
Mhm.
see that as changing. I see a lot more people being tolerant of the non-alcoholic drink and making sure that beverages are available for those who don't drink alcohol. That isn't
Mhm.
like the kiddie juice.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
fun glass and a fun, punch or cocktail or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, in your experience now, do you find that we're seeing a shift towards
Huge. So when I got sober, I was the only one that was really like, not the only one out of my group of friends. Like I was the only one. And they were like, why do you don't drink that much? I'm like, you have no idea. When I go home, I drink even more. Like it's like you have no idea. And I was blacking out every night. So they would make their comments, but now it's like there's a massive shift. Now there's more non-alcoholic companies, and like there's the sober market in Toronto. You go in there and it's all like rums and like vodkas and tequilas and Jägermeister, but it's all non-alcoholic. And then the amount of wine that you can choose from, it's amazing. And there's events. So I'm starting events. So I'm going to be I've reached out to a bunch of like more exercise places and trying to get like that incorporated with the sober, because I just think it's so important for people to connect with other people that are in that situation. And when I got sober, I'm still single now, but I was single, and it was hard for me to meet a guy. Like I'm on the dating apps, and I don't recommend them, so don't. So it's that I would go on the dating apps and I'll tell them that I don't drink, and a lot of guys will be like, "Oh, that's good for you." Delete. I'm done. So they're weaning themselves out. I'm okay with that. That's totally fine, because I don't mind if they drink, but as long as it's like under control. So I literally have only had 3 guys in the 8 years that have said to me that they were okay with my not drinking.
that's crazy.
So yeah. And they actually liked the fact. One is really big into fitness. The other one was just, he doesn't drink very much anyways. And the other one was just, he was older, so he just kind of was done his phase of drinking and stuff. So yeah, like it's becoming more of a thing where the younger generation is not drinking so much. And it's kind of like, the way I see it is like smoking. Like I quit smoking 16 years ago. I was a heavy smoker too. But like when I was younger, everybody smoked. And then I moved to Vancouver. In Vancouver, I was like, wow, no one really smokes here. Like, I mean, there are people that did smoke, but it wasn't like it was here. It was totally different. And then now very rarely do I see people that smoke. So I think it's like a whole movement now. There's becoming like non-alcoholic companies. I'm working with one based out of Burlington right now with the events. And so, yeah, so it's like, it's pretty amazing, all these things that are coming along. So, yeah.
So my son was, commenting recently about visiting all his friends in Guelph and they drink heavily. And so he said, I'm not 18 yet, but is it okay if I get some non-alcoholic beer? And we were like so on board with that. We loved his, coming to us and talking to us. So yeah, we
Yeah.
found him one that, he could hold the bottle and feel like he fits in, but
Yeah.
it's got zero alcohol. So I'm certainly glad there's more choices for
Yeah.
people, youth, kids. I wanted to involve some of the other ladies in the conversation. So Valerie is a hypnotist. She uses hypnosis and NLP techniques to help her clients form new habits. So Valerie,
Mhm.
I'm just curious, have you worked with anyone who was trying to stop drinking?
So I haven't personally worked with anybody who's tried to stop drinking, but at our clinic, Tree has worked with people. And what I wanted to say was there's a beautiful thing called Ho'oponopono. It's chant and forgiveness. It's the cord cutting. It's
Mhm.
so beautiful. We had a gentleman, I was able to, he was an alcoholic, but he was what do you call a sponsor? He became a sponsor because he stopped drinking, but he came to quit smoking. And somehow he was so
Mhm.
afraid to let go of the smoking because he knows he has a very addictive personality. Like there's that piece in him. And I was listening to Tree, the person I worked for on contract there. She was working with him and she said something very beautiful while he was in hypnosis. She said, it's none of it is your fault. It's not your fault, and there's nothing to shame. And as he was in the chair, you should see him just let go of that burden.
Yeah,
Changed everything for him. Like it was
yeah,
just amazing to see. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And I think, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think it's really good that people know that this is not something that people want to do. People don't wake up and think, I want to be a heavy smoker. I want to be an alcoholic or a drug addict on the street. Like you look at the ones
that's
that are,
the messaging we give every time too. You don't wake up to say, how many cigarettes do I need to kill myself today? Like
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
messaging they get. Yes, it's
Yeah,
beyond. Mhm.
But it
yeah.
was interesting how you said that that client was, he was probably smoking because he knew he had an addictive personality and it was stopping him from going back to the drinking, right? Is that what you were alluding to? That
Kind of like that.
he
And he
needed
was
that vice and
yes, it was fearful.
yeah.
We all need a way to be rebellious somehow. There needs to
Mhm.
be like maybe many of our clients will say choose fitness or training because they're working hard, they're really pushing it. You know what I mean, Christine, right? There's a way that you can really feel, and it doesn't necessarily mean rebellious, that's countercultural, but it's like adventurous and it's a challenge, right? Like wanting to ride a maverick instead of a trained domesticated horse or something. It's that kind of, the extra. Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah,
So
I have a personal question.
yeah.
When somebody in your household decides to stop drinking and because you're not interested in drinking or alcohol or any of it, and you don't understand how all your children enjoy even social drinking when you and your husband don't do any of it, it's such a quite a puzzle for me. But how to be more supportive in the household, like when the one decided to stop. I had there was a tin can out front, a beer can, and I thought I didn't even think about it. I have to go to the garage because it has to go to the beer store like we always do, and it's never ours. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize when my son was saying, like, why is this here? I said, because we're gonna, it's only 10 cents, Mom, and he tossed it away, but I didn't realize how that would be a link to
Hmm.
running it when
a
he was
trigger.
choosing not to. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so oblivious to it because it's not a part of my awareness.
Yeah.
So how can I be better at that? Do you have suggestions?
Well, I think also like educating yourself, like looking online and seeing like what kind of things you need to be aware of. You know what I mean? To be more open. You're only gonna, to be honest with you, the way I see it is that going through the experience, you're gonna learn from stuff, and you're gonna learn from it and go, oh, maybe I should have been a little bit more like this, or and then you'll change eventually. But I think just like kind of like reaching out to like other, like even like like there's an Al-Anon group, or just something that's probably a little bit extreme, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what other people have done in order to be supportive.
I would consider being like a member of the family one that,
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily an alcoholic, but I'm supporting someone.
yeah, so Al-Anon. Al-Anon's really good. We went to that from in regards to my brother. My mom and I used to go to it a lot. My dad didn't so much, but yeah, we used to go because it was very stressful for our family. Like it was like a tornado. Always, you didn't know when he was going to explode. So it was very difficult in that
My,
situation. So yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
my mom and I went for, well, my mom went longer than I did, but to help a family member as well. And I think one of the most important things my mom had to overcome was, even though it's your child, you cannot fix him. He is not
Yeah.
yours to fix.
Mhm.
You can just support and set the boundaries and the guidelines, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Um, And yeah, it was a very interesting time. A lot of the meetings we left there bawling our eyes out. But just from sharing, being vulnerable ourselves, but also hearing other stories of other family members. But it is an illness. I've
Oh,
seen that firsthand. It's like,
I said to my client yesterday, I go, listen, this is a disease. This is something that's like you have. Matthew Perry had said one time on TV, he was being interviewed. He goes, that first drink isn't I'm in charge of, but anything after that, I'm not in charge. Like it's out of my control. And I said to her, I'm like, this is a disease. Like this is something that's like, you can't just go and have a couple of drinks and then walk away and be totally fine, just like I can't. So it's like, unfortunately, you're going to be fighting this for the rest of your life. But some people say they don't have any triggers or cravings. And then some people, myself, I still get them. So just periodically, like if I'm really stressed out, but it's, yeah, like it's a disease. It's not something that can just go poof, all of a sudden we're good. I'm sober, it stems from a lot of, and just saying, sorry, but my uncle was an alcoholic. He ended up dying of alcoholism eventually. He ended up getting cancer, but he did die of it. So, and my brother's a carbon copy of him. So it's amazing how we ended up, out of all the kids, the grandkids, he and I end up, I think my uncle's one daughter might have an issue with her attitude, the way that she is, but yeah, I think that's it. So yeah.
I'd like to bring Diana into the conversation. Diana is a health practitioner, and she does work with individuals who are trying to detox, and she does colonics. So
Okay.
Diana, from your experience working with clients, I'm sure you've come across those who may or may not have identified as an alcoholic, but what do you see from someone's, I don't know how to put this, output that
Yeah, it is interesting. I do work with people that are detoxing from medications, from alcohol. I have clients. I mean, it's interesting because when they are on the table, um, we call it releasing. They release a lot. They talk a lot. It is kind of a therapy session for them. I actually do have a client, which is why I was so interested in this topic today. I have a client who right now is struggling. And I think she does need help, and I'm trying to kind of gently encourage her to go to AA. I have a lot of exposure to it. I come from a long line of very diligent alcoholics on both sides of my family. So, yeah, I've seen it a lot, and I do worry about people. You do see, I mean, you see the inflammation that comes out of their body, you see the puffiness. Yeah, they're not typically not well nourished. There's a lot of undigested food, just probably too much information. Yeah, but it's an interesting process. I mean, colonics themselves, people do it because they want to detox from any number of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that people don't realize, like, so I work for CAMH and part-time, and I have a list. So what it is that they have a contract with the Ministry of BC. And so anyone that's gotten a DUI, they have to go through a course before they get their license back. So what they do is I have a series of questions that I ask that they've given me to ask, and that will determine whether they're a level 1 or level 2. And so quite often, like, I'm asking these questions and people don't realize how much alcohol affects your body, how much, like, just quitting, you could have a seizure, you could have a stroke, you could die. Like, it's just like the extent of what it does to, like, the bloating, everything.
Oh, sorry. Are you saying that when they stop, their body goes into?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very dangerous for them. So that's why, like, with the detoxing, and I had another one who called last week, and he wants to quit drinking. And he had said, I said to him, listen, we have to go through this, like, step by step. You cannot just quit just like that. So I'm sure that you probably see it, Diana, that, like,
Yeah.
coming out of their bodies and, like, just the difference, just it's amazing what it does to somebody. So
Well, and what's interesting is people, I talk to this a lot with people don't realize that alcohol, this is what kind of gets them to take a look at their drinking, is I tell them, like, alcohol actually slows your metabolism for 3 days. So one glass of wine slows your metabolism right down. So of course women, 30s, 40s,
yeah.
unfortunately always weight conscious and wanting to cut calories. And I say, like, that is the number one way that you can do it. So if you want to be healthier, stop drinking. It's a carcinogen.
It's true. I had a guy who was, he's a personal trainer, and he was like, I have so many people that come to me and they're not losing the weight. They're not getting the results that they want. And he's like, well, how much do you drink? And they say, oh, a bottle of night or whatever they drink. And he goes, they don't realize that that's got to go. That's got to be, and, you know, when I quit drinking, I started drinking the non-alcoholic wine, and I started to really gain weight because I was treating it like I was treating wine. So it was 17 grams of sugar, and I think it was in a glass and a half. So there's a lot of wine in that, sorry, a lot of sugar in that bottle. And I ballooned right up. So that was it. I said, that's enough. I can't do this anymore. And I really wasn't getting anything out of it other than thinking it was wine, mentally thinking it's wine, but it's not, you know? So yeah, so it was, it's all around. It's so much better to not drink, period, to not have it in you.
So we have Barbara on the line as well with us today. Barbara, do you have anything from your educational background, the field of study that you're in, related to the topic?
No, not in terms of my educational background, but more in terms of family background. And so there are these sprinklings in the extended family of what I've come to observe over the years, quirky behavior that I didn't clue into with, you know, Aunt Clara or Uncle Joseph. And you know, first of all, I want to piggyback to something earlier. Before I do that, Caroline, you are an engaging speaker, and I enjoyed listening to your story. I thank you for your honesty, your transparency, and so forth. And I'm sure all the clients and families that you work with are truly very blessed to have you and to have your lived experience along with their own. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
I signed up for this session because I was thinking about extended family members. And so for me, I'm in my early 50s, and I have, you know, a distant second cousin or an uncle here or there, and they're all older than me. You know, they're in their 70s, maybe early to mid 80s. And that's a very different experience, observing what they're going through with their own addiction. For these people, it is alcoholism, because those that are of my generation and younger, there is more openness about addiction and mental health, and, you know, taking leave of absence from work to go into rehab and so forth. But when I'm looking at older relatives, that was not a part of their generation growing up. It was quiet, hide it. There's a lot of shame and so forth. So for me, I come to this because I have a really big ethnic family, and I absolutely love my family. And my heart breaks for what I see and what my siblings see happening to these beloved members of our family that we can't even have an honest conversation with. Like, okay, Uncle Joe, like, we all know you think it's the world's best kept secret. You are an alcoholic, you know, or a distant cousin of ours and so forth. So I came to this because I'm starting to be more curious about addiction and more about older generations in the family, and not being able to have honest conversations with them, and not having them even admit that there's a problem. I didn't come into this expecting, you know, some magical answer or insight from you. But what I do appreciate hearing from everyone is the commiserating. Everyone's story with either their own addiction or addiction of a friend, a neighbor, a relative, whatever. It's all different and personal, and there's like no direct set path. But for me, there's a lot of like pain. I really feel for these relatives that means so much to me. And I know that their offspring, like my cousins, are suffering. And yet, for my older relatives, even their children can't talk to their own parents, you know, about what's going on in their parents' life, because parents are like, nope, I don't have a problem. And we're not talking about this again. And conversation gets shut down. So, you know, that's a little bit about what brought me here. And I am an educator, and so I've had a lot of experience working with families that have all kinds of needs and things going on. But again, that openness in this day and age, talking about addiction, is more prevalent than for older generations.
So it's very true.
Yeah.
My mom actually said to me the other day, she said, you know, if I called my mom's mom was mama to me, and her dad was papa, and because I was the oldest, so I would hear my mom call her mama and papa, and so if mama was still alive, my mom said that she would be so disappointed with what I'm doing right now. She would not be happy because it was like hush hush. Like my mom's brother is the one that passed away of alcoholism. So it was like you didn't talk about that. You didn't, you know, like you like just keep it shut, don't talk about it. He went through a divorce and like it was a whole big thing, and just the shame that he got. I actually put something on LinkedIn yesterday about it, because the shame that he got from even just his siblings, like even my mom. I point that out to my mom. I'm like, you weren't nice to him when he was going through all this stuff, and she was the older sibling, you know, so it's like they're starting to, like, the younger generation is starting to learn. They're more spiritual too, whereas the older generation is not like that. You know, like you wouldn't probably find someone in an older generation that would be like, have a gratitude book, or, you know, like all these little things. So it is switching, but it's harder when they're in their ways. They don't want to talk about it and they have a problem. So
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment. There's that shame of their generation, you know. And for my cousin in particular, they're trying to get their dad into a long-term care facility, and she's gone to look at a few with him, and then has gone back afterwards to say, my dad has an addiction. My dad is drinking in the evenings. And I mean, I won't go into too many details, but two long-term care facilities, wonderful private facilities, said it's more common than you think. You're not the only member of a family to come forward and let us know about their mom or their dad. And but again, when you can't have that open conversation, it's really tricky because of all the shame of that generation, and you don't talk about problems and you don't air problems and so forth. Whereas our generation and younger, it is more open. Doesn't mean everybody will talk about it openly, but I don't know, there's
getting there.
Mhm.
I'm concerned about all of the media. Like, they're really encouraging young women to drink now. Before, it was always focused on the young men, and it's very much, and I don't like it. Like, I wish I had some control over what the media is doing. Like all the drinks that seem like they're more feminine, and, you know, they're low cal, and they're still alcohol, and they're still getting them in the habit of doing it. So,
Well, they have a target. They have a target, whether it's male or female. They just want to get what they have to, like, you know, they want to their business going. So yeah. So unfortunately, that's part of it. So, and now look at the alcohol is being sold in the convenience stores. Like they're making more.
Quebec, it used to be like that, right? I remember going skiing and seeing it in the little corner stores, like the general stores, and then it was decades later we got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I had said to my friend a little bit ago, I go, you know, with the long weekend coming up, I would have been in a panic had I not had wine, had I not had enough alcohol to drink. And she goes, yeah, but now you can go to the convenience store. And I thought, oh yeah, I would be able to go do that. So it's like, it's more accessible for people. For me, it seems like they don't seem to really want to help people get over, you know, they're making it worse. Really is what it is. So, yeah. No.
All right, well, ladies, thank you so much for being here this afternoon, and thank you to Carolyn, as Barbara said, for opening up, sharing your story, being vulnerable with us, talking about, you know, things that have affected your life, the pivots and the changes you've made, the realizations you've had. It's extraordinary. It's you're really, like, you're saving people's lives. So thank you for sharing with us today. And I, in the email that I sent out, I have shared your contact information. But it would be great if I could get more information on your drop-in program and also share that if okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was just going to ask about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I still can't find the group chat, so I'm talking into a blank screen. So I hope I don't look totally ridiculous here. But if someone can see all of us on the screen, can you take a screenshot for me so I can share the picture?
I can do it.
Does someone? Yeah, thanks, Barbara.
Okay, here we
Never
go.
had this happen before, so
Okay,
I'm baffled.
here we go. 1, 2, 3. There. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then you can email that to me, or you can send it through Facebook Messenger. I'm not sure if we're Facebook friends or not. We should be.
I think we are, but I don't know. Caroline, would it be okay to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing that today. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's under Caroline Barrett, but it's Sober Me. So Sober Me stands for Sober Me, but also I incorporated Eddie into this. So because I called him my Eddie, so Sober My Eddie. So he's along the journey with me. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and Caroline has a really robust YouTube channel. She's very, very active with her videos there on YouTube. So definitely check it out. I can't remember all the things I dropped into the email with connections. But yeah, soberme.ca.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
I'll
you.
wait to get that information then from you regarding the Thursday drop-in, and I will send out the contact information again for Caroline. Excellent spending time with you on a
Thanks very
very
much.
sensitive subject.
So much. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Caroline.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.